Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News Channel. The National Economic Council, presided over by the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has commenced a process that could eventually lead to the decentralization of the operations of the Nigeria Police Force as one of the ways to tackle insecurity in the country. The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, will head the committee that will be set up, and we have representatives from the 6 geopolitical zones of the country as members. Now, KK, this whole issue about decentralization of the police. Some people are not asking for decentralization. They are asking for state police. Is this an attempt by the federal government to circumvent that request for state police, with the vice president himself has defended on many occasions, with the National Political Reform Conference of 2014 made one of its recommendations, and which many Nigerians are saying is probably the best way to ensure that the police best delivers in terms of its mandate to protect lives and property in Nigeria. What do you think?
Yeah, if it is a response to the agitation for state police, I dare say that it's a very legitimate one. We make a demand on the government, and the government is responding.
No, so what people are not asking for decentralization.
What I'm saying is that you have made people have made a demand on the government, and the government is responding. So I'm first of all establishing the legitimacy of the action.
The response.
Yeah, I mean the response that is there. Now whether the response now meets, the expectation of people who are asking for state police is a different matter. But in doing so, I think we must make some conceptual clarification. If you are talking of having a review of operation, that is all within the law already establishing the Nigerian Police Force, and even the constitutional provision. What the idea of a state police, it is something which is constitutional. That means that you are changing the whole concept, of the police force in Nigeria. So it's quite a more complex thing than what I think the...
But will the outcomes, will the outcomes not be similar? Because if I take a federal police structure where a state governor says, technically I am not the chief security officer in my state, because to get an approval to do ABC with the police, I have to report to Abuja. So for the sake of argument, let's say with this decentralization, powers are decentralized, and so that the Commissioner of Police in a state has a bit more powers to make decisions in consultation with the governor of the state. So without the nomenclature of state policing or decentralization, if the objective, i.e. allow state structures to be able to function without having to radio Abuja, would we not achieve what people who are pushing for state police are after?
Well, I doubt.
But if I may ask, is that not what is existing now?
I'm restraining myself from
what you just said is what is existing currently.
I'm praying devil's advocate for the way people are understanding the conversation.
This is not the first time that the federal government of Nigeria will toy with the idea of decentralization.
Okay.
You will recall that under Tafa Balogun as Inspector General of Police, there was a similar effort. That was when they created these zonal commands, and you started having AIGs, in charge of various zones, okay? And that was when they were also talking about community policing. Now, how is this different from what was done at that time?
That was the point I was trying to make, That already the operation of the Nigerian police is decentralized. If there is a security problem in Lagos today, the governor of Lagos State, of course, will relate to the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner of Police of Lagos State is a member of the Lagos State Security Council, in fact, the cabinet. In fact, is the one coordinating, other security, issues within the state. And I've not heard of any state where there is a problem, and the governor tells the Commissioner of Police that is the problem, and the Commissioner of Police refuses.
But the Bauchi State Governor said he's not, I guess, how did he phrase
it? The Benue State Governor.
It was Bauchi that said he's not the chief security officer of the state, so he's hands off, and then when there are clashes, the governor said they have no control. Yeah. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to say. So in the context of that, when the governor says they have no control, they have no input, because the Commissioner of Police takes orders from Abuja, not from them.
Prof, do you think this goes far enough? Because the matter of reforming the police is actually a constitutional issue. Section 214 of the Constitution, of the Nigerian Constitution, says there can only be a federal police force that is known as the Nigeria Police. Section 215 makes it clear that that police force reports is directly under the command and control of the president of Nigeria, who is reported to by the Inspector General of Police. And if you look at the Police Act, Section 3, Section 6 of the Police Act, these same issues are there. So unless you amend the Constitution, I think what is being proposed is at best cosmetic. What do you think?
Thank you very much. You see, change and continuity is not the same thing as change in continuity. What we are witnessing is making tactical changes within continuity of the same policy. In other words, you are even trying to ask me whether it is enough, whether it's going to have a more constructive impact. Certainly not. You have rightly referred to various constitutional provisions. All right. Now, they still remain. For as long as the provisions are yet to be amended, then there isn't much you can do in going too far. The second point is that the committee, the efforts that are being made already, they told us, the members have told us that they are finding, they are looking for, all right, enduring solutions. They, as at now, as we are talking, they do not have any solution. They are only trying to look at how to go about it. And like KK drew our attention to the conception of decentralization. What does it mean? It means that the status quo remains, but you now try to deploy, some of the commanders to different areas of special need. Now, what is required is that, contrary to the request of the public, the Nigerian public wants state police, community police, local government police. All right? It's quite different from decentralization, because the fundamental difference is that when you have state police, you do not have to report to the Inspector General of Police, all right, who will then make his recommendation to Mr. President. The crescendo of the structure remains at the level of the headship of the state. But there can still be a coordinating general...
if I as IGP, for example, I'm just sort of pushing back. If I'm IGP, for example, and I say you don't have to. So yes, the law says you should, but in the effort of getting my job done, I sort of give you powers to make certain decisions.
No, well, I mean, that has to be a matter of law. Precisely. And that's why the long-term thing, in terms of police reform...
I'm not a lawyer, but why should it be a matter of law?
Well, because there are laws guiding the structure, the administration,
if you put it in the context, for example,
in
this context of vote buying that we're talking about, the law says that I must have privacy to cast my vote. But if I decide that I want to take my vote and show it to you so you can pay me money, that's my choice. So I'm saying that the law gives me powers as the IG of police to make certain decisions. If I decide that I want to rest those powers in prop, for example, I shouldn't need to amend it.
Well, we cannot subject the operation of the police to the whims and caprices of the individual
of the IG. But we must also not mystify the powerlessness of the states in this matter, because even because you are talking of law, the Constitution provides for a body known as the Nigerian Police Council. All the state governors are members, constitutionally, sorry, members of
the president is the chairman of that police council. But how many times does the police council meet?
Exactly. So if it's not meeting, what I'm saying is, okay, why are the governors not insisting that this council must function and the powers given to them?
Their hands are tied by Section 215 of the Constitution, which gives the president the overall authority over the operations of the police.
But I'm saying that the Constitution makes provision for a council, and that council has powers, and responsibility.
That council is basically an advisory body.
the possibilities within it. Are we saying that the governors have exhausted the possibilities?
Well, no, that's not the issue. You see, the governors have always admitted that they are chief security officers in their state.
Yes.
But the meaninglessness of that statement itself is to the extent that the commissioners of police in the state report directly to the Federal General Police.
To the IG. They don't report to the governors. In any case, take what has been quickly before we move on to another important subject. Yemi, I want you to talk about this. Look at what the IGCC has done with the Special Armed Robbery Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, okay? He says he has reformed it, but he just changed the label. Do you think that that has made any difference?
Not at all.
Within a week?
No, not at all. I think as an organization, we've been engaged in working with the Nigerian Police Force on the issues. And the campaign started late last year. The Vice President weighed in at some point. Then this statement as acting president. And then suddenly the IG of police is saying that then it will do, the members, for example, will be fully kitted. Meanwhile, they had said at a public forum that they're all fully kitted and they can be identified by their uniform. So for me, beyond the name changing, there are other contradictions within the statement that doesn't show any.
Which have even been played out. But let's go to Oyo State. Something happened in Oyo State this morning. The Oyo State government has kept mum after the demolition of the multi-million naira edifice housing the Fresh FM station belonging to celebrated musician Yinka Ayefele. The news agency of Nigeria reports that hundreds of residents were at the scene, wielding placards with various inscriptions criticizing the state government over its action. Oyo State government had marked the structure for demolition, stating that it contravened the state's planning laws. However, Ayefele approached a court in Ibadan to secure an injunction restraining the government or its agents from carrying out the order. Despite this, the state government went ahead this morning with the demolition. Thousands of radio listeners and Ayefele's fans gathered at the scene of the demolition, with many of them crying uncontrollably. Let me start with you, KK. What is this all about? Is this politics? Or is this media repression? Or is this sheer wickedness by the constituted authorities of Oyo State? Or, is this just sheer callousness to destroy the business belonging to a musician who is physically challenged and who had set up a business so that he can earn a proper living and not end up begging on the streets? Take it.
Yeah, as a reporter, I would not like to make wide speculations, but then I have my raw suspicion that there could be a case of gross abuse of power. And that is why I will urge Mr. Ayefele, that this matter legally, should be pursued to its logical conclusion. But then, like I said, I have a suspicion, that because I've not actually got the full facts of the matter, so as to be able to answer your question, your various questions in specific terms. But I recall that when that radio station was commissioned, His Excellency, the Governor of Oyo State, was there as a guest, commissioning. Now, my point is this. It shows some contradiction in governance in our country. If the Governor of a state, with his presence, come and bless, grace the occasion, of commissioning a building, is it not, it's not scandalous that later you will now realize that there was even, maybe that is assuming that the argument of the state government is that it violates state planning law.
So when he visited the radio station,
yes,
he said that some politicians had approached him that he should pull down the building, okay, but that he didn't think it was a good idea. And here, and Ayefele, in some of the videos that have been circulating, talk like brothers and all of that. So. Yes. The curious thing is what has led to this. Yeah. Yemi, quickly, in a minute. Quickly,
I think it's just a case of impunity. The documents at least available, it shows Ayefele saying that, look, your government officials have been guests on numerous programs on this station. At no point did they ever say that there was an issue. So somebody now came on air sometime in July, said something you did not like, sent us a letter to retract, and starting from there, you suddenly now realize that we're violating building codes. And even if that were the case, it will be responsible for the government to have a sit down and say, look, you're violating building codes. What do we need to do and how do we navigate this? So we either modify it, what do we need to be done? Not just demolishing it, especially when there's an injunction to stay action on the matter. And Governor Ajimobi has shown this tendency not once, not twice.
Well, I will leave the subject for now. We'll look at
not
it
Arise TV's opinion, Yemi's opinion.
Yeah, but I think the more details will be revealed, as the week, unfolds. Yes, and it looks like there are many dimensions to it, and the full story may not have been told yet. But we sympathize with Ayefele with this major loss, considering its circumstances. It's time now for a break here on ThisDayLive, the Sunday talk show. When we return, we'll be discussing the implementation of full salary payments in Osun State. Stay with us.